And really the only thing I didn't like was when they took off his mask and it was Danny McBride. Because, like, you know, I know he's trying to get into horror and stuff, but, you know, Alien Covenant...
joke you had, play.
No, it just kind of floated through my mind.
Just guys.
Feel free to cut that if you want to.
No, just play it before the video starts.
Yeah.
Hello, Reject Nation. It's Greg Alba here.
And I'm John.
We're going to talk about the highly anticipated Halloween 2018. 40 years later, we're finally getting a sequel. Can you believe it, guys? Long awaited.
It took a while.
It took a long while to get there. Listen, before we hop into this review, which will contain spoilers, by the way, it won't be a scene-by-scene breakdown. I have no idea what even Note thinks about the movie, honestly.
Fuck this movie.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not going to be a scene-by-scene breakdown. We're just going to, have a conversation about it, and I'm sure there'll be spoilers. We'll definitely talk about the finale and everything like that. Before we go into that, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been following us on the Stardust app, people. We have passed 7,000 followers over there. We do 30-second reactions for films, TV shows, and trailers. We also do a lot of micro sketches and whatnot on that app. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of big YouTubers on there as well. It's free to use, free to download, so download the app and follow us today, people. Anyway, on to Halloween. Since there's no non-spoiler review, I'm just gonna give my general thoughts on this movie. When the movie was done, I knew I really enjoyed the hell out of the film. What I came to show up for, it delivered. Jamie Lee Curtis, fantastic in this film. The best part, in my opinion. Close to the best, and if not second best, Michael Myers. He's amazing in the film. He's really good. John Carpenter music, also amazing. Oh, yeah. Everyone was really excited about John Carpenter coming back to the music and stuff, and I was like, all right, yeah, I guess I'm excited too. And then I listened to him, like, oh, yeah, this is awesome. This is great music.
Especially compared to just all of the installments that have come since that original. Like, when you get back to a Carpenter score, you're like, oh yeah, this is the soul. This is part of the soul.
As I kept thinking about it, and then when I woke up, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I really love this movie. And I think this is my favorite one in the franchise. I want to make a disclaimer here. I've never been a big fan of this franchise. Not one. I know, like, this is just the part 2 to the first one. All the other ones are discounted, whatever. I am the kind of guy who acknowledges that the first movie is an important film in cinematic history. That's one of those major appreciation films, and not something I particularly love. I've heard quite a bit of mixed opinions on this review. What you guys are saying about us. I've heard quite a bit of mixed opinions on what people think about this movie. It's like, yeah, there's a Rotten Tomatoes consensus or whatever, but in terms of like the YouTube sphere, so many mixed opinions. And I'm on that side of the fence where I'm like, I love this film. I don't know why people are necessarily disappointed with the movie. I can kind of get why. Yeah, in my personal opinion, I love what they did with it. What about you, John?
Yeah, I really appreciated this too. I mean, it's still, sinking in. It's a big deal to do this kind of sequel at this point in time for Halloween, and I feel like in a lot of ways this is kind of where I'm sitting now, what the first movie sort of deserved. I felt like this is kind of one of the best slasher sequels or best horror sequels I've seen in a long time, and perhaps ever, because it just takes such a logical approach to what might have happened so many years later. And I think it also does a good job of combining what makes the original film and some of the subsequent films great, some of those aesthetic and content choices, but also being in the minority of Rob Zombie Halloween fans, I thought it also drew from that aesthetic as well and gave me things that I appreciated about both sides of the Halloween coin into one big movie. I appreciate slashers that give all their characters something to be doing or some kind of story, even if we're only going to check in on them for a few minutes before they die. And this movie does that. It's like everyone's a character and you kind of get where everyone's coming from and the complication of the situation, and also just the raw nightmare harkening back to that original film, watching him stalk through the neighborhood killing people. Like, it really took me back but also forward at the same time.
Yeah, I remember being a little bit conflicted on how I felt about the kills in this movie, because the kills are never fun in this film. They're not grim in the way how Rob Zombie's Halloween movies were, but still, there's this one scene where before a woman gets a knife stabbed through the back of her head and then it comes out her cheek.
Yeah. Ugh.
And every character who gets a death in this movie, they get a little bit of time to get to know. Even this random woman who it's not even a character in the movie. She's on the phone, she's talking, and she's clearly dealing with something.
Yeah.
And then there you're like, oh, she's probably like a troubled mom or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she gets murdered.
There's just a little glimpse, just a literal window into her life right before she's dispatched.
Because it doesn't do that thing where it's a bunch of, campy kills or characters. There are some characters in there that I think are a little dumb. I don't like the psychologist character, to be honest. Like, the main psychologist guy. I'm like, you seem like the worst psychologist I've ever seen. I like the way the guy handled the performance, but I think in terms of writing the character, I wasn't a fan of a movie that's going for like that realistic approach. Like I don't know a guy like you. You seem like very ridiculous to me.
That's a fair criticism. Although I must say I do like the way they handled those two characters in context of the overall plot, the way you're kind of following their thread and then that thread gets cut short in a really nasty way.
Yeah, I would prefer if the trailers didn't obviously show us it was going to happen.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Although, the teeth, I thought those would have been his teeth, so that was a nice, at least, throw me off moment.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way the gore's handled in this movie because it escalates. It escalates into like, whoa, we're getting like fucking crazy here. Yeah. There's like little teases here or there with like a cool kill here, a cool kill there. Maybe like a gory image, like the guy at the gas station, his whole mouth, his jaw's like open wide, and I hate that. Yeah, I hate that in movies. It's like, when
they bring in the, I don't know if I should call it realism, but those gore gags that make things look that much. It's not cool horror movie gore. It's like, oh god, yeah, if you smash someone's face into a desk, that's probably what it would look like. And I appreciate the kills in this movie too, because again, I think they straddle that line where some of them are very suspense fueled and some of them are very gruesome and very visceral, and you get both. Because like there's that scene we saw in one of the trailers with the hammer, which takes place all off camera and is just as horrifying as kills you see directly.
She's the only one who you don't get a backstory on.
Yeah.
Other than she's doing garage work and watching her baby.
Yeah.
But you don't know she has a baby until after. And I even like the way that moment's handled, because for a split second, you're like, is he going to kill this baby?
Yeah, totally. Well, the thing...
Which would have just made me like, I don't know about this movie, man. Yeah.
Well, and hey, I mean, his first kill is a child.
Which I think is great.
They make you hate him. They make you really feel like he is a monster.
And it lets you know right up front, like, oh, this guy doesn't spare. Going through the movie now, and I'm like, funny how we just started talking about the gore.
Yeah. Well, you're coming into the slasher movie. How are the kills, man?
I've heard some people complain about the mixtures of tone in here, and I had zero issue with that. I thought that when it was funny, it was funny. It was appropriately funny, and I enjoyed it. Like that little black kid who the one is being babysitted.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite sequences.
Or even the first kid who gets killed. He's like, Dad, I really love hunting with you, but I'm really passionate about dance.
My dance class.
It's like a real thing he's dealing with. It's funny. But it doesn't seem like, what the hell is this movie? I feel like a lot of the complaints where I hear disappointment come into this film is because there are a lot of people who are very much married to the very first Halloween movie, which kind of has this one tone throughout, this like ominous, like horror tone. But this movie, I think, infuses that, but then also has like a mixture of other elements in there that really packs a punch. And I like that. It's very entertaining to me. This whole finale, we're going to say that for a little, this whole finale, I thought was very tense. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen a movie where I am that tense during the finale.
Yeah, and it feels like kind of an authentic mess. See, like the first one came out in like the late 70s, and of all the Halloweens, that one feels the most like a 70s movie where you're just kind of watching events unfold and it's not overly encumbered by a plot structure like movies are now. And I thought they did a good job bringing it back to that sense of like, oh yeah, all of these characters are kind of involved in the same situation. There are effects all around. It does sort of feel like it's just unfolding naturally for the most part. And that really adds to every part of the movie. And what leading right up to the finale, barring maybe a couple conveniences or coincidences, things that every horror movie has some of, you really get this visceral journey of people just trying to survive and take down this boogeyman who's been looming for so many years. And there are multiple arcs tied up in that, also about the characters, which is nice.
Well, I mean, like Laurie Strode in this film, I love what they did with her character so much. This is my favorite Laurie Strode. Like, we've seen the Rob Zombie version, we've seen her progress in the whatever, like the second or third timeline of the Halloween franchise.
Weird timelines we've seen.
Watching this version of her, who's obsessed with, like, she's traumatized and she's obsessed with preparing for the return of Michael Myers. Like 40 years later, I like this approach of the destruction that it's caused her family. There's some like very on the nose exposition that I'm like, whatever. Honestly, all this movie really is a fantastically executed slasher movie.
Yeah.
Like when you break it down, I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted and expected. I don't know what this like insane caliber of masterpiece cinema that people are expecting out of this movie.
I mean, Halloween is a slasher
That's all it
movie.
is. Yeah.
It's a classic slasher movie, partly responsible for a whole subgenre. It's important, but it's also a slasher movie.
Because like the things I cared about, they delivered. Laurie Strode, I knew I loved this woman, this interpretation where she shows up at her daughter, because they do some things where she's like taking on the Michael Myers role where she's outside of Allison's school, like watching her, and then she's like at her school giving her money or something. She's like, fuck college. Don't go, like, who gives a shit about college?
Just build a bunker and learn how to shoot.
And then she has that line about, you know, if your mother hates me,
but
like,
she's more prepared for the horrors of life.
Right then and there. And then I think either the montage of her shooting stuff is right after that or it's before. I can't remember.
There's like something in between, but it's pretty close. It
was that moment where I just knew I love this character. Like, she is not liked. You understand where she's coming from. She's made choices, but she sticks by her choices here. But it's easier to get on board with her when you're like, she's gonna prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael's gonna break out.
You know, there's strain within her family because her family doesn't quite understand, and there's trauma there. But it's like, we have all seen the horrors that she lived through in the first one that her family's about to find out are very real and not just remnants of the past.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a great movie for that character, because like the original Halloween 2 is like a sequel that, we can make a sequel. Well, let's do it. You know, and this feels like the sequel that character really deserves, because she gets to add a whole other dimension to the character. It makes all the sense to me anyway that, you know, she might go this way. And in a way, again, as much as people panned some of the ideas in Rob Zombie's movies, I feel like this does share a kinship, especially with part 2, because you do have that mentality of no, surviving this horrible scenario doesn't make you a superhero. It might make you very traumatized, and it might produce, you know, a lot of the events of your life afterwards. You know, it might cause you to go down a darker path.
I think Rob Zombie's Halloween had this gimmick of let's explore the psychology behind Michael Myers and stuff, and it doesn't really commit to it. And weirdly, I think this movie does a better job than that.
Well, because this movie is not actually trying to give you an answer about who Michael is and why, because part of the point they brought it back to is like, we really don't know, but they still bother to have the debate around it. And you also have characters going, is this guy human, or is this guy just a monster that we should put down?
I mean, they have what's the new doctor's name? Dr. Loomis Part 2? Whatever. Whatever, we'll call him Dr. Loomis Part 2.
Mustache Loomis.
There's people who are constantly trying to understand him, and I like the approach of how he hasn't talked for 40 years, and I think there's some cool visual tricks they did with Michael Myers, because I didn't know this until this morning, but Michael Myers is played by two people here. You got the shape where Michael Myers does not have a mask. You know, it's like the guy still has a scar, and if you remember the first Halloween, the one time you see his face, he has some kind of scarring on his face. You never really get a good full-on image. I wonder if you go frame by frame in this movie and you have it on DVD, if you might be able to see, like in the bathroom beating scene.
See like parts of his face.
I'm like, can you really make him? I mean, you can find the guy on IMDb if you want, but but in the movie do you see it? And then there's another actor for Michael Myers when he's just the full-on shape with the Michael Myers mask.
And when he's got his mask off, that's the original shape. That's Nick Castle.
Oh, it is?
I believe.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And the way they handle Michael Myers, I think there's a cool build-up to this movie, because the trailers have sort of pitched this as Laurie Strode versus Michael Myers. And that's ultimately what this film is building towards in the finale. And I know some people have some disagreements about how the finale is handled, but I think the movie overall does a great job at that. The first half of this movie, in terms of Laurie Strode, is everyone saying, Laurie, you have to heal and get over it. And then you got, you know, kind of a similar setup to what the first Halloween movie is. I mean, Michael's being transported, he's going to be incarcerated. And I like how they have this moment. Jamie Lee Curtis shows up and she sees Michael, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to do it, I'm going to shoot him. She's scared.
Yeah.
So even though she's prepared for this for 40 years, she has to deal with this trauma. She shows up at her family dinner that she's not really welcome to.
Yeah.
And she starts crying. It's kind of embarrassing because the boyfriend, Cameron, weirdly, I remember his name, but no one else's name, but that boyfriend Cameron is there. Like, a lot of people don't really care about this other supporting characters in this movie. I personally like Allison, the granddaughter.
Yeah, I did too.
She was a character I actually really much enjoyed. Maybe because she's the only one who actually kind of cares about Laurie in the film.
She's trying to reconnect, man.
Yeah.
Plus, she got a nice little loan from her.
As this build-up's going, it's like Michael Myers has broken out. They're trying to keep the information a little private in the media that Michael Myers is out on the loose.
Yeah,
So it's not like the Strode family is all going, oh my God, Mom,
here.
you're right.
He's
You're
here.
so right. So when it's building to that moment where they're going to see each other, it's intense. Like you keep awaiting that moment. And I like the reveal that Mustache Loomis says about maybe his drive, and this is what I mean by actually having a kind of a psychoanalysis of the guy.
Yeah.
It maybe the drive that keeps him going is trying to kill Laurie Strode. And I thought that was a neat way to tie it in because that's not really established in the beginning of the film, but then when it's revealed and you're looking back at everything, it does kind of make you go, maybe that is it. And the movie doesn't define that and make it 100% clear, even though he does show up and he does try to kill her in the end. Because speaking of that, there's a lot of great moments in here that I thought were handled really well. Usually in these movies, babysitter deaths are like whatever to me. When that woman, that babysitter gets killed, that 28-year-old playing a high schooler, I'm sure she's not 28.
Everybody in high school is maybe 28.
But when she gets killed, I really felt bad for her.
Yeah, I did too. That's what happens when you make these characters and you get to, like, most babysitters in horror movies suck.
Yeah.
And she's actually a good babysitter.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a rapport with the kid. There's a lot of endearing stuff about that's really fun. And yeah, when she eats it, you're kind of heartbroken about that.
Yeah.
Even for her boyfriend a little bit,
I like the boyfriend character too, because he had a line early in the movie when he's saying, the worst things that have happened. This is 40 years ago. Guy's in jail. Get over it.
By
he's like,
today's standards,
yeah.
it's not that bad.
Because I even had the thought of the first movie, like, why is this such a famous big deal? My girlfriend was telling me of how, like, a lot of, it's like, Charles Manson didn't kill anyone, but that was such an infamous thing.
Inspired people.
Yeah, well, it's such a big story, and it was a small town. There's the mythos around it. It does make sense why this is such a popularized tale in this world that it exists in.
Oh, yeah, it's taken on legend status, especially for a small town like that, that never leaves you.
Yeah.
And on Halloween night, which is already a holiday.
But I think there's, like, plenty of clever sequences throughout that you can break down. I like the moment where the one dude, they hop the fence.
Oh, yeah.
He's opening up.
Her.
He's opening up to Michael. That's sorry, man.
I'm sorry, I'll get off your lawn now. I'm just really dry. You ever wanted a girl so bad and you just couldn't have her? Which got, like, an audible laugh from the crowd. Like, and it was like, that was a cheeky nod that I really appreciated.
Yeah, this movie is filled with touches throughout that are nods to the original, all the way from the opening credits. I like the way they did that with the pumpkin kind of rising.
Yeah, like unrotting in reverse.
Yeah, like that was a cool thing with the original kind of logos and credits on there.
That actually gave, like, even something so simple as the titles gave me a bit of a chill.
Yeah,
when it first popped up.
And then there's literally nods throughout this entire movie that you can break, even from little things of when the boyfriend is before he goes on the motorcycle and he looks at the clothesline of the clothes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's a famous moment in Halloween where Laurie's looking at, and then he just vanishes out of nowhere while she's watching him. There's so many nods from beginning to end in this film. You even switched Laurie in for Michael in like 2 scenes I can think of.
Yeah, it's like some of them subvert and then some of them are just straight up references. Like, they even work in the little Silver Shamrock kids from part 3, you know, as a tribute. Like, there's, I think, a lot of stuff for Halloween fans, and for the most part, I feel like any of the nods that are super obvious get subverted. Like, when she's sitting in the back of the classroom looking out the window, you're like, oh, what if Michael's out there? But it's Laurie. Like that. I appreciated that kind of stuff. I never thought the references got too obnoxious.
I guess, like, my issues that come in with this film, I like Mustache Loomis' twist. I was like, okay, clever movie for calling him, you're the new Dr. Loomis. I get it. You're self-aware. Cool. Yeah. But then when he kills Hawkins, is that his name?
The sheriff guy.
I thought that was a cool twist because I'm like, oh, you're not Dr. Loomis part 2.
You're crazy, and you're trying to use Michael to kind of figure out some weird psychoanalysis thing by he's almost like a Glass. He's like, I gotta get these two together so I can see what horrible thing happens.
I get what they were doing with that twist of a guy who just became so obsessed with this one patient to try to understand him that
he's willing to do anything to get some kind of glimpse into his mind. Nothing works,
Yeah, so I get that, but there was something about the way that the scene was handled. I like the idea of it more than how that scene played out. I thought it was kind of...
It's a bit too villainous.
Cheesy. Yes.
It's like I would have liked a nuance on that.
It's kind of a weird thing to complain about cheese in the Halloween franchise, but that moment was a little too much for me and how it was done. You're already some dude with an accent with a mustache, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like, dialed it back a little bit,
gotta
please.
be subtle about this.
Yeah.
You already look like Loomis, but instead of a goatee, you have a mustache. Come on now.
I'm glad that he got killed. I mean, he gets drived.
He really does. That's perhaps the most gruesome, like, over-the-top kill in the whole movie, too.
I'm so over it by this point.
Yeah.
But if you, like, try to dissect it, it has the same problem Rob Zombie's Halloween had, or any of the Halloweens. Fuck, this guy, like, did you let him weightlift the whole time? He was like,
you've been, like, sitting there doing nothing. Like, is evil just making you super strong? You just fueled...
This guy must be, like, 65 by now. Like, whoa.
Yeah, he's not that big even. Like, I mean, he's big, but he's an old dude. He's limping around town.
He's able to smash this dude's head in. But it's not even like, it was like just one hit and the dude's like fucking face is destroyed.
I get on one hand and I gripe on the other because I'm like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but for the evil, you know, it's effective. So it's not a perfect, it's kind of a halfway for me.
There's some kills in here that are very much that like the whole bathroom sequence.
Oh yeah,
that's
super like, Rob Zombie. It's like really grim and really nasty and really handheld.
Yeah, it's really brutal. And then you get some grindhouse kind of kills like that.
Yeah. With like teeth, he's dropping teeth on the ground.
Or the head smash is like wow, that's very crazy.
Or the knife through the face. And I mean, there's a great supporting cast too. I mean, you've also got like I like the family dynamic. I like Judy Greer. I like Toby Huss as the
I don't
dad.
agree with that. I don't like Judy Greer in this movie.
No.
I'm sick of seeing Judy Greer play mom who disagrees. I
did have that thought. I was like, you are getting typecast.
But no, I don't. I got what they were doing with her character, and I understood her homework. She's someone who's been through a lot of trauma, evidently been through a lot of therapy. You can hear it in the dialogue with the types of definitions she's throwing. Like, oh, you've been through a lot of therapy, and I get what you're doing. And there's one moment I really like of her. It's like a bitchin' moment in the film. I didn't believe her at all. Like I just did. I like the dad's funny, but I don't know. Like the Cameron thing. You know what I liked about Cameron? He didn't seem like douchebag boyfriend. Then he became douchebag cliche boyfriend. And I was like, why'd you do that? I like that he wasn't doing that.
Yeah. A movie that kind of keeps making better choices than that.
Like the supporting cast, I don't hate. I think they're fine.
Well, they were here to add to the body count.
The movie. Yeah,
the movie point is Laurie and Michael.
The movie shines like crazy when it's Michael on screen or Laurie on screen.
Yeah.
But they really tried, like Judy Greer especially, making her, or like Allison I preferred. Yeah. But Judy Greer was this character. I'm like, I just don't quite believe you. I don't believe her as Laurie Strode's daughter.
I wanted more to give weight to that. Like, I went with it because that's what the movie told me, and they had, enough going on that I wasn't sitting there
insanely cheesy flashback.
Yeah. The flashback was not my favorite part of the movie.
Jamie Lee Curtis's voice sounds like a tough woman, you know? I get that this Judy Greer has been through therapy and whatever. The way she carries herself, the way her voice is, there's no history of that type of upbringing in her performance, and that's what bothers me about it. Laurie was a normal girl then traumatized at like 17 years old.
Yeah.
Judy Greer's character
has grown up like a survivalist. With this.
Like you shouldn't be like, the chick hi, I'm mommy. Like
you should be the chick from your next.
Like that doesn't fit well for me.
I do feel you there. Yeah.
In the finale, though, that finale is one of the most intense sequences I've experienced in a long time. They did all the setups really well. I don't know why Jamie Lee Curtis kept all the guns in one spot. She had like 45 guns.
It's all in this one little bunker.
One little bunker. And I'm like, you wouldn't think to hide a couple of them? We're gonna try
guns all over the house.
Make the whole house a goddamn maze to try
Every
to catch Michael.
Got a million shots of people reaching up under, like pulling out a gun.
You're able to like have these like cages just drop.
Yeah, she lives in the house from Don't Breathe.
Like you would have made your job a lot easier if you just had some guns in other places,
Yeah, maybe. Although good touch with the floodlights, though. That's smart.
That whole sequence I really did appreciate because it had me going. I got angry at the movie because I thought, are you gonna fucking kill Laurie again?
Yeah. I didn't know how it was gonna go.
It was so effective. Like when she's getting her head banged and he reaches through. The way the movie has set up Michael throughout as this like non-stop serial killer.
Yeah.
And that moment comes, and the way how things are just going, you're like, oh my god, it's gonna happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's gonna murder her.
He's just gonna eat until he can't eat anymore.
And I was about to get pissed at the movie. Yeah. I wasn't gonna be like, bold move. I was gonna be like, wait, you kill her in freaking Resurrection, and now you just bring her back and kill her again. Like, bullshit. Like, no. I was about to go there with that moment.
If we're doing right by Laurie, this is not right by Laurie.
Yeah. It's so pissed.
Like, the first time she gets to showdown with him, just gets her head smashed on the door, and then we're done.
But no, even when she's like going through the house and stuff,
that shit was rad.
I was ready to get mad at the film for killing her. Yeah. That's how good that finale was. Maybe it wasn't like, them throwing fists at each other the entire goddamn time. Yeah. But the movie seemed like it was setting up for her to maybe have some moment of closure, to be like, because the psychologist dude says, say the thing you wanted to say. She doesn't. Nor does she need to, because that's not her intention, that's not her motivation, so she doesn't need to. When that showdown happens, I like that nod of she gets thrown through the window. And then Michael looks over and she's gone. Just call back to the original. Like, that was clever. Yeah.
So that's what that feels like.
And the one Judy Greer moment I loved, which I think everyone loves, is when Allison finds her way back. Good for her making her way to the goddamn woods like that.
Good thing you ran that direction.
No compass or anything. She found her fucking way to that house.
Yeah, that's a bit of movie magic right there.
When she has the gun and she's like doing the act that she's terrified. And gotcha, and then shoots him. I was like, oh,
hell
yeah,
fucking
cool.
And she lands the shot.
And then Jamie Lee Curtis says, "Happy Halloween."
Yeah, trick or treat, motherfucker. Right back to Busta Rhymes. May you never ever rest in peace.
I gotta say, as cool as it was when everything was on fire and the clever trap and three women banding together who helped take down Michael Myers, like, sweet shit. And I love the shot when the flames are going on. He's in the basement and he's doing that slow pan on Michael. I really... And I don't know how anyone feels about it. Some people might think it's stupid to get mad about this because it's Halloween, it's a franchise. I hated the way how they ended this. We gotta end this in a way where we can get a sequel.
Oh, you mean the way they cut back in the room and you don't see Michael anymore?
Yeah.
So you're not sure?
It's like, at least show him on fire so we can have a scene in part 2 where it's like he finds a way to stop being on fire.
Yeah. There's a lake nearby that he rolls into.
We're just like fucking like, I don't know what the hell he does, but the fact that they do that moment like that after all that buildup, and that's what got me mad about the whole gun thing. How many guns do you have? How many scenes do we get with guns in this movie? And you couldn't went and land one great shot on the guy to take him down in the head. If you just had a gun planted somewhere in the kitchen. It irritated me that was the ending of, you got all this buildup, all this setup to take him down and yada, yada, yada. And then you shoot it in a way where you think you can trick the audience into thinking she killed Michael, but like if you pay attention to the shots, she obviously didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I took it in a way at the time where I kind of got a halfway point with you. I was sort of like, are they trying to leave this ambiguous? Once they cut back into the burning room, you don't see Michael, we don't know, and there's always that, like, the whole series runs on this idea of, we killed him, oh wait, we didn't.
Yeah.
I guess I don't mind having the inkling there because that's part of Halloween to me. That being said, I hope they don't make a sequel to this.
They're going to.
I don't want that.
I think it's already greenlit.
The thing is about, like, that's weird to me because it seems like the whole point about this movie is to come back and go, we did it right and we did right by Laurie and we closed the book.
Yeah.
And this is what, like, we waited all this time to tell the actual sequel and the true story of what we intended for Michael Myers.
Quote me on it being that's what I think it's great. I don't know.
No, but we live in a time where you can make a movie like this with that kind of vibe underneath it and then go, well, this made money. Let's do another Halloween. I really don't want that. I'm okay with that ending if they don't make a sequel. Basically.
Yeah, me too.
If they do, I'm gonna be like, oh damn, because then it's gonna make this movie suffer a little bit in my eyes.
Absolutely. And that was my exact issue with it. Sum it up, it's so obvious what they were doing with that ending. Let's end it in a way where, like, we can end it. And
they definitely win died. If we want
but if we want to make a sequel, we can. Because
technically, if we pay attention to the shots.
Yeah, that's my issue with that ending. It just sort of just ends right then and there.
Yeah, it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just they're in the back of a truck. We did it.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, is another one of those kind of 70s-esque things where it's just like, oh yeah, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Go to a diner and have a nice meal and laugh about the experience we just all had, you know?
But for me, I would give this like a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, and I mean, especially for what it achieves and for how much finesse it has. Like, yeah, there are things that could have been a little better written or a little better fleshed out, you know, or better conceived overall. But for the most part, this is one of the best slasher sequels I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. All right, guys. Well, what did you think of Halloween 2018, people? Leave your comments down below. You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell to get notified every time one of our vids is up. And check us out on the Stardust app. Free to use. So do free things. See ya.
Woo!